Okay, let's open the next file. File, open, and we'll choose Other Charts. Now, as you can tell from the name, these charts are less used than most of the other charts. The first chart type is called a radar chart. These are really great if you work in human resources and you're trying to do employee reviews. I mean, basically, you have a person or a company or an entity, and you rate them on a 1 to 5 scale along several variables. Let's choose the data from A1 to B6. We'll choose Insert, Other Charts, and we have 3 choices on the radar chart, whether we want them just drawn as lines or filled in. Let's choose Filled In. Basically here you can see that this company does very well on speed, not so well on accuracy or value. I'll make the chart a little bit smaller and remove the legend using Legend None. We'll move this chart to the top and create a second chart for our first competitor. Insert ribbon, Other Charts, Radar chart. Now here you can see that this competitor is doing great in accuracy and speed. Because they weren't ranked 5 on any of the measures, the scale is off by a little bit. If it's possible, you can try and click one of the numbers along the axis, right-click, and choose Format Axis. You can now say that the maximum value, instead of being automatic, should be fixed at 5. While this should work, to be safe, you'll also want to set the minimum to be fixed at 0. Sometimes, if you don't set the minimum, Microsoft will choose a crazy minimum like -1. Click Close. We're going to remove the legend and make the chart as small as the original chart. This is frustrating to me. It's always tough to try and create the exact same size. I end up taking the chart, lining it up with the left side of the original chart, and resizing out, and then moving the chart to line up with the top of the original chart and resizing the height. Well, now we have a great view of our company and the competitor. Well, let's go on to the next worksheet, and we'll take a look at Excel stock charts. If you enjoy watching the stock charts in the paper, Excel has a few different types of stock charts. Let's choose our data set. Now remember, we want to make cell A1 be blank because we have dates along the left-hand side. Choose cell A1 and hit the delete key to delete that cell. I'll hold down the shift key while I hit down and then end down and choose the other columns. Our data here has columns for high, low, and close, and that's really important. Let's go to the Insert tab, open Other Charts, and take a look at the 4 stock charts that are available to us. The first chart is called High, Low, Close. That's the one we're going to use now. The next chart is Open, High, Low, Close, Volume, High, Low, Close, and then finally, Volume, Open, High, Low, Close. Now, Excel is very particular that you have to have your data in the exact order as the name of the chart. I have dates in column A and then High, Low, Close in B, C, D, so I'll choose the High, Low, Close chart. And Excel draws a great chart for me that's similar to the chart in the paper. Now, it'd be great if we can zoom in so we can actually see the relevant range of the chart. If I right-click the numbers along the left-hand side, choose Format Axis, and again, I'm going to change the minimum and maximum from automatic to fixed. It looks like a range from 300 to 500 would be great for this particular security. Click Close. And there you go. We start to see the detail behind the stock chart. Let's go on to the next worksheet. This is the one with all the columns, volume, open, high, low, close. Now in this particular type of chart, we're going to get what's called a candlestick chart. When you look in the newspaper, there's basically 2 kinds of charts, the high, low, close, which is what we just created, and then the candlestick. Hit Control Home to go to cell A1 to delete the heading. I'll hold down the End key, down arrow, end down, end right, and go to the Insert ribbon. Open Other Charts, and go to Volume, Open, High, Low, Close. Microsoft creates a chart with 2 axes now. The axis on the right-hand side is the price of the security. The axis on the left-hand side is the volume. Now, there's always one tweak that I make to this chart. If you look in the newspaper, the volume piece of the chart is always taking up the bottom third of the chart and not the whole chart. And also, we really don't necessarily care about the volume numbers. We just care about those spikes. We want to see the spiky days. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click the numbers along the left side of the chart and choose Format Axis. I'll change maximum to be fixed. And you see that we currently have scientific notation here, 4.5 e to the 7th. Again, that brings back nightmares from math class. The point is I want to take that 4.5 and multiply it by 3, taking it up to 13.5. I'm sure the math majors watching this are saying, well, 13.5 e to the 7th isn't valid, but luckily Microsoft is happy to accept it. We'll click Close. And now the volume piece has been shrunk down to just a tiny little bit at the bottom of the chart. I can still see those spiky days, which is the real relevant information here. We actually don't need those numbers along the left-hand axis. Let's right-click there, choose Format Axis. For the axis labels, we need none. Click Close. There you go. Chart that looks just like it came out of the newspaper. Okay, we'll close this file. And let's open the next file. This is called On Sheet. These are charts that you create without using charts at all. It's the greatest thing. It's called a repeat function, R-E-P-T. The repeat function will repeat a character or a word a certain number of times. Now, the first time I created this, I had 1,337 characters going across. I couldn't see a thing, so we have to scale these. It seems like dividing the number by 10 seems to work out really well. So the repeat function, I asked for a repeat of the vertical bar. That's right above the Enter key on your keyboard. You have to hold down the Shift and enter the vertical bar. Based on the number in B4 and divided by 10. So what I'm going to get is 133 bars for the first value, and then 37 for the next, 34 for the next, and on down. If you go to the next sheet, you'll see an even cooler version of this where we compare male and female. Now, in order to do this, it was basically just a matter of right aligning the formula in column E and left aligning the formula in column G. Of course, I changed the order of the concatenation to put the number at the end for female or at the beginning for male. A couple of great charts that you can create without creating charts at all. Let's close this file. Well, let's open the next file. This is called Chart Lies. Now just sit back and watch some of the things that you'll see people do to try and lie with charts. You'll notice that we didn't cover 3D charts in this lesson at all because 3D charts are a great way to lie with charts. This is the exact same data, but when you take a pie chart and turn it on its side, anything in the front of the chart looks much, much larger. Both dark wedges are 25%. If I'm going to the labor union to tell them how much they're costing us, I'm going to use the chart on the bottom where that 25% wedge looks 2.5 times bigger than the wedge in the back. Moving on to the next worksheet. 3D column charts aren't much better at all. No one knows whether they're supposed to look at the front of the column or the back of the column. But let's take a close look. If you follow the 3,000 grid line around, none of the bars touch 3,000. But the exact same data plotted on a 2D chart, clearly the Q3 and Q4 bars are above 3,000. Let's move on to the cone chart. Now, I joked before that if you ever create a cone chart, you're likely to end up in Professor Tufte's next book, and here's why. Here's a company where they're spending 27% on administration. That's the true chart on the top. They changed that to a cone chart, and all of a sudden that 27% looks like nothing. The top series in cone and pyramid charts always looks smaller than everything else. Moving on to the next worksheet. Here we've changed the scale along the x-axis. In the top left chart, because we've zoomed in, sales look really erratic. If that's not the message that someone wants to produce, they can zoom the scale way out like the chart on the bottom, and all of a sudden sales look smooth. If you change this to a 3D line chart on the right-hand side and play with perspective, you can actually make it look like the sales are going up. Moving on to the next worksheet. Sales are increasing. It looks great. But look again. They reverse the order of the series along the x-axis. If no one's paying attention, they won't notice 2007 is the lowest bar, and we've been losing revenue every year. Moving on. Here we're looking at marketing costs. They're spiraling out of control. They're through the roof. That's the true chart on top. Well, if you're the VP of marketing and you have to explain this, just stick your slice in between the other 4 slices. No one will be able to figure out if you're going up or down. Actually, if you look at the dark gray, the third series in the area chart, it actually looks like you're going down. Let's go on to the next sheet. Well, here's a situation where that top chart makes it look like things are going really great, but in reality, that's only 2 data points. The person that created this chart took those 2 data points and forecasted out into the future. In reality, if we had looked at the entire data set, things were going well up until about 2001, and then since then, they've been in a tailspin. Let's go on to the next sheet. Now, if you ever see this kind of chart, someone truly is lying to you, because Excel will not create this chart. This is one of the charts that Professor Tufte talks about in his book. In order to mock this up, I had to go out and bring in clip art and completely confuse things. If you look closely, you'll notice that the blue dots are the actual height of the series. But when I pasted the clip art in, instead of just increasing the height of the clip art, I increased the height and the width. Exports went from 100 to 300, which is a 3-fold increase, but the area of that last symbol is 9 times larger than the area of the 2005 symbol. Finally, if your numbers don't look good, instead of plotting the original numbers, plot the change in the numbers. Here we have a mayor who's watched the city basically lose half of its population, but rather than talking about that, he says, well, hey, the population decline is slowing. Shows it as negative bars, and again, things look like they're improving. These are just some of the ways that people can lie with charts, sometimes inadvertently, but sometimes on purpose. If you're in a meeting and you see charts like this, it'll raise your radar to start thinking about what the real data is. I'll close this file. Okay, let's open the next file. Advanced types. This is a bonus file for you. These are all chart types that I wrote about in my book, Excel 2007 Charts and Graphs. They're all charts that don't look anything at all like you would expect Excel charts to look like. Some of them were pretty wild in that they took an incredible amount of steps to create. They're here for you to explore. If you're interested in any of these charts, feel free to pick up my book, Excel 2007 Charts and Graphs, where I explain how to make each one. I'll close this file. We'll open the next file. Custom layout. Now, this is a tip that can save you so much time if you're regularly creating charts. I have a chart here on the chart example sheet that I've customized to match my company colors. I've changed the scale to be in millions. I've moved the legend to the top where I like it. I've made the grid lines be a light gray dashed. Let's say that my job is to create dozens of charts a week, and every one of them is customized exactly like this. Now, I'm going to suggest to you that you watch this topic and not do it, because I would hate to have you make this setting to your computer and have all of your charts look like my favorite chart. I'm going to select the chart, go to the Design ribbon, and on the left-hand side, we have an option for Save as Template. This is saving the file as a CRTX file. That's a chart template file. I'm going to give it a meaningful name, like my favorite chart, and click Save. Now, when I go to create a new chart, I'll go to the next worksheet. If I select the data, on the Insert ribbon, I want to choose All Charts. The way to choose All Charts is to use the More button in the lower right-hand corner of the Charts group. You'll notice that we now have a new category on the left called Templates. Choose my favorite chart, click OK, and I have all of my settings. Now, one more cool thing you can do, if we go into Change Chart Type, go to Templates, click on the template, and then click on Set as Default Chart. Finally, click OK. Now, when you create charts from now on, it will inherit this setting. There you go. That's the end of our charting lesson.